Silence is only scary to those who know they deserve it. Not everyone watching this stayed calm from day one. Some of you begged. Some sent that one last long message. Some blocked, then unblocked. Some watched the phone all night waiting for a reply that never came. Let's not lie to ourselves. Let's not pretend we all mastered detachment on day one. But here you are now, silent, not because you don't care, but because something inside you finally snapped, and not in a broken way, in a woken-up kind of way. You stopped explaining, you stopped reacting, you stopped shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's inconsistency. And whether you're only now starting to go quiet, or you've been silent for weeks, trust me, they're feeling it. See, people don't expect silence from someone they train to over-explain. They don't expect space from someone they thought they could breadcrumb forever. They expect a reaction, a meltdown, a chase. But when all they get is nothing, that silence turns into a psychological earthquake. It rattles the stories they've told themselves. It breaks the illusion of control. It forces them to face what they've been avoiding, the fact that you've changed. Let me paint the picture for you. Imagine they're in a hallway lined with mirrors, but every mirror shows a version of themselves you no longer respond to. The manipulator, the flake, the sweet talker, the liar, the one who used to pull you back with a single emoji. But now, nothing works. That reflection stares back, and it's not getting the applause it used to. Because silence doesn't just confuse people, it exposes them. You didn't need a dramatic exit. You didn't need to announce you were done. You just left the stage and let the silence close the curtain. And that's what's driving them insane. They can post, they can pretend, they can act like they don't notice, but they do, because silence has a weight. And when someone's conscience isn't clean, that weight crushes them over time. Your absence becomes the loudest thing in their world, and they have to sit with it. Sit with what they did. Sit with what they lost. Sit with the fact that maybe, just maybe, you're not waiting on them anymore. And I know what some of you are thinking, but what if they never reach out? What if they don't miss me? My friends, silence isn't a tactic to get them back. It's the proof that you're already coming back to yourself. Because the truth is, silence isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting your peace. It's about letting the storm inside you finally settle. It's about realizing that anyone who needed to be convinced of your value was already gambling with your heart. So whether you went silent with grace or got there after a few emotional breakdowns, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here now, stronger, quieter, and a whole lot harder to reach. Say it with me. I owe no one my peace. Write it in the comments if you feel that shift. Press that like button to confirm you're done chasing chaos. Subscribe if you're ready to become unshakable. Stay with me, because we're about to break down exactly why your silence is working better than any words ever could. Number 1. They thought you'd break first. Now they're shaking. People don't panic when you leave. They panic when you don't come back. They thought you'd break first. They thought silence was just your dramatic pause, that eventually you'd come crawling back with a message that said, "I just want to talk," that you'd cave under the weight of missing them, that you'd check in, apologize, ask to understand what went wrong, even if they were the ones who broke everything in the first place. But here's what's funny. They misread you completely, because what looked like hesitation in you was really a storm forming, a quiet one, the kind that doesn't announce itself with thunder, but still leaves everything different afterward. You didn't break, you built. While they were waiting for you to fold, you were folding up every piece of yourself they never bothered to understand, and putting it back together in silence. This wasn't the plan they had for you. No, their plan was emotional tug-of-war, to keep you hanging, to keep you orbiting, to make you believe that healing depended on their timing. They thought they had the power, that you couldn't detach. But silence, real, consistent, grounded silence, is the ultimate rebellion against manipulation. Because nothing makes someone rethink their choices like the sound of the person they took for granted going completely still. My friends, let me give you a picture. Imagine someone playing chess against an opponent who suddenly stops moving. No expression, no movement, no frustration, no begging for the next move. Just a calm stare, still, focused. That silence, that stillness, it breaks the game, because now the opponent's mind starts racing. What are they thinking? Are they done playing? Did I push too far? Did I just lose something I thought I controlled? That's you right now, because silence does what words never can. It makes them sit with themselves. And some people can't handle that. Some people need you to speak first so they can still feel powerful. They need you to reach out so they can tell themselves, they still care. I'm still in control. And when that doesn't happen, they start to shake. Not physically maybe, but internally, emotionally, psychologically. Because now they're left with uncertainty. And people who play with emotions hate uncertainty, unless they're the ones causing it. You're not feeding their ego anymore. You're not filling the silence with apologies they didn't deserve. You're not chasing clarity from someone who ran away from giving it. And that's what's driving them crazy. Let's break a lie wide open. They told you the person who cares less has the power. But here's the truth. The person who needs less has the peace. And right now, your silence is a statement of needlessness. It says, I wanted you. I cared. But I never needed this to survive. That kind of energy, it shifts the entire dynamic. And I know some of you feel guilty. You feel like maybe you're being too cold, too distant, too detached. You're asking yourself, what if they think I don't care? But here's what you need to understand. Silence isn't cruelty when you've already tried to be heard. When you've already explained yourself, begged to be seen, gave your all, and then some. Silence is the last boundary you set when words no longer work. And they know that. Deep down, they know it. That's why they're checking your stories, typing out messages they never send, stalking your social media with a fake account. Because they're not sure anymore. Not sure if you're coming back. Not sure if you're still holding space for them. And that uncertainty, it's a mirror they can't unsee. This silence, it's not punishment, it's protection, it's preservation. You gave them every opportunity to meet you where you stood, and they didn't. So now you're walking without looking back, and the sound of your footsteps walking away, even if they're silent, is louder than anything you ever said while standing still for them. And let's be brutally honest for a second. Some of you did break first. Some of you begged. Some of you waited by the phone. You sent the long texts. You tried to make them see what they were walking away from. You gave them space while secretly hoping they'd use it to realize your value. You cracked. And now, You're quiet, not because you didn't break, but because you finally realized who broke you. But here's the shift. You turned that break into a boundary. You didn't stay broken. You rebuilt, piece by piece, moment by moment, thought by painful thought. And now your silence isn't weakness. It's a wall. A wall built with lessons, heartbreak, and self-respect. They thought you'd break first, but you used the break to rebuild. And now, they're the ones breaking. Because here's the part no one tells you about power. It doesn't come from being loud. It doesn't come from being right. It doesn't come from being first. It comes from being still enough to let people reveal themselves, and quiet enough to let them feel your absence without explanation. Let me hit you with this quote and let it settle into your soul. You didn't lose them. They lost access to the version of you who would have done anything to keep them. So don't flinch now. Don't second-guess your growth. Don't respond just because the silence is getting heavy. That heaviness? It's not yours anymore. Let them carry it. Let them hear the echo. Let them feel the version of you they used to know becoming a memory they can't recreate. And if you're sitting there wondering if they miss you, the answer is yes. But more than that, they're afraid. Afraid they no longer matter in the world where they used to be the center of your attention. That fear, it's what's shaking them now. So breathe deep, stand tall. You didn't break, you evolved. And now you're the one that's hard to read, impossible to manipulate, and too grounded to be moved by breadcrumbs. Say it with me right now. I didn't break. I built. Write it in the comments to lock it in. Show yourself. Show them. Show the world who you've become in this silence. Number 2. Silence isn't absence. It's observation. Just because I'm not speaking doesn't mean I'm not watching. Silence isn't you disappearing. It isn't vanishing into the dark or ghosting just to be petty. No, my friends, silence is you stepping back to observe the truth behind the noise. You're not gone. You're just done participating in the performance. And from this new distance, everything starts to come into focus. The red flags you once ignored, the mixed signals you once excused, the games you once played along with, hoping they'd eventually stop. But now, you're not reacting, you're studying. See, when you were talking, explaining, trying, you couldn't see clearly. Emotions blurred your vision. You were too close, too involved. You were too busy trying to hold it together while they were busy seeing how far they could push. But silence changes that. It's like stepping out of a storm into a glass room where everything becomes visible. Patterns, behaviors, intentions. Suddenly, what didn't make sense makes perfect sense. Not because they explained, but because they revealed. Because people always reveal themselves when they think you've stopped paying attention. And that's the power of silence. They think you're checked out, but really, you're tuned in like never before. You're watching how they act without access to your energy. You're watching how they move when there's nothing left to gain. You're not looking for them to say the right thing. You're watching to see if their absence of effort says more than their words ever did. Let's get real for a second. How many times did they tell you they cared, but their actions screamed otherwise? How many times did they go cold and come back, just to keep the door cracked open, but never fully step in? They knew you were watching then. But now that you've gone quiet, they've let the mask slip. And that is what's so revealing. Because silence doesn't just give you peace, it gives you data, and data doesn't lie. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're watching a play. You're sitting in the front row, fully invested. But the actors keep improvising, changing the story, rewriting the ending mid-scene. You're confused. You're emotionally caught up in the chaos. Now imagine you stand up, walk to the back of the theater, and just observe. From there, you start to see the pattern. You see which scenes are real and which are just performed. That's what silence does. It puts you in the back row so you can finally see the script for what it really is. And here's where most people get it twisted. They think silence is about waiting, like you're just sitting there hoping they'll come to their senses. No, you're not waiting. You're watching. There's a difference. Waiting is passive. Observing is powerful. Waiting gives away your time. Observing takes back your clarity. They thought you were done caring. That's the funny part. They thought silence meant indifference. But it's the opposite. Silence is what happens when you care too much to keep pretending everything's okay. It's what happens when you stop talking and start listening. To your gut, to their patterns, to what the energy has been trying to tell you all along. You're not avoiding them. You're avoiding repeating a lesson you were supposed to learn the first time. So yes, they might wonder why you haven't said anything, why you haven't responded, why you've stopped trying. And maybe a part of you feels tempted to speak, to reach out, to break the silence, just to feel something again. But let me remind you, silence isn't you hiding. It's you healing. It's you gathering truth in a world that's too busy talking over itself to listen. And if you hold it long enough, it reveals everything. That friend who only checked in when they needed something, you saw it. That person who suddenly posts more because you're quiet, you noticed. That one who never apologized, but acted confused when you went silent. You're done making excuses for them. Because silence turns confusion into clarity. It doesn't just make them uncomfortable, it makes you unshakable. So here's the truth you need to lock in. You don't need to confront everyone who wronged you. You don't need to force closure. You don't need to explain your boundaries to people who trample them like they were never there. You just need to observe. Let their silence answer your questions. Let their absence of effort show you the truth. Let your own stillness bring you home to yourself. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. You're not ghosting. You're growing. And they may not notice that today. They may think you're still waiting in the wings, hoping they'll get it right. But time will show them what words never could, that while they were busy wondering where you went, you were never lost. You were just watching them lose you. Say it in the comments right now. I see everything in silence. Let them wonder. Let yourself witness. Let the world feel the shift in your energy. Number 3. They start to spiral when you don't react. Your calm response is their chaos. You want to know what really messes with someone. It's not shouting. It's not blocking. It's not some dramatic exit or one last angry text. No, it's silence, stillness, the kind that doesn't explain, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that says, I'm done playing and I don't owe you a warning. They start to spiral the moment you stop reacting, because for the longest time they fed off your energy. Your emotion was their scoreboard. Your reaction was proof they still had a hold on you. Whether they ignored you, tested you, or pushed you just far enough to see if you'd snap, they always had a safety net, your attention. But now, there's no reaction, no ping, no emotional recoil. You're just gone. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally. You're unreachable. And for someone who thought they could pull your strings whenever they felt like it, that is terrifying. Let me break it down for you. Imagine they're playing tennis and suddenly you stop swinging. You don't serve the ball back. You drop the racket, walk off the court, and don't look back. What happens next? Confusion, panic, because they weren't playing to win, they were playing to keep you in the game. And now that you've stopped playing, there's nothing for them to control anymore. That's the moment they begin to spiral. See, people who rely on control can't handle calm. People who thrive on pushing your buttons fall apart when you stop giving them buttons to push. And every time you don't react, when you don't reply to their test text, when you don't fall for the bait, when you don't rise to the drama, they lose more power over your mind. And yes, some of them will pretend like they don't care. They'll act like it's all good. But watch closely, because underneath the cool act is someone who's checking their phone 10 times a day, rereading your last message, stalking your profile just to feel connected again. They're waiting for something, anything from you to confirm you're still hooked. But you're not. Because you've learned the secret. Peace is power, and the moment you choose peace over reaction, you take back everything. My friends, most people aren't prepared for the kind of strength that comes with emotional self-control. They're used to chaos. They expect drama. But you're not giving them that anymore. You've unplugged from the madness. You've realized that silence isn't weakness. It's control. And not control over them. Control over you. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're acting distant. They might even try to provoke you just to see if they can still get a rise out of you. That's their spiral talking. That's their ego gasping for air. Because once you stop dancing to their emotional rhythm, their entire performance falls apart. And maybe you're wondering right now, but what if they really don't care? That's fear talking. And here's the truth. Even if they don't care, that has nothing to do with your worth, and everything to do with their inability to value someone who was always there for them. But what's more likely? They care more than they're letting on. Because silence creates space, and space creates discomfort for people who never thought they'd have to live without your energy. Now they sit in that discomfort, rewriting the story, replaying the past, questioning what version of you they just lost. It's no longer about whether they miss you. It's about whether they can handle missing you. So hold the line. Don't react just to soothe their spiral. Let them feel the weight of not having access to you anymore. Let them feel what it's like to reach for your energy and find empty air. You gave them enough chances, enough answers, enough grace. Now, you're giving them the one thing they never expected from you, complete stillness. And that stillness is speaking volumes. It's saying, I've outgrown the back and forth. I've walked away from the version of me who begged for crumbs. I'm not mad. I'm healed. So when they spiral, let them. That's not your problem anymore. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to help them find their balance again. You need to protect the peace you found in your silence. Say it in the comments right now. I protect my peace. Let that be your line in the sand. Number 4. Your stillness revealed their true character. Silence doesn't change people. It just shows you who they really are. When you stopped reacting, when you went still, not out of spite but out of clarity, something happened. The masks slipped. the roles they played, the charm they wore, the effort they gave when your attention was constant. It all started to fade. And what was left behind? The real version of them. The one they worked so hard to keep hidden. The version that couldn't survive without your energy to perform for. You see, my friends, silence doesn't just make people uncomfortable, it reveals truth. When you're quiet long enough, you start to notice what's actually real. No more mixed signals, no more half-hearted apologies, no more emotionally charged highs and lows designed to keep you dizzy and doubting yourself. Just raw, unfiltered reality. And that's where it gets brutal. Because now that you've gone still, you're not just watching, you're witnessing. You're seeing the parts of them they never wanted you to see. The selfishness, the avoidance, the manipulation, the silence on their end that used to make you panic. Now you see it for what it is, a power play, and you're not playing anymore. Let me give you a metaphor. Think of still water. When it's calm, you can see straight through it. But when it's stirred up, muddy, full of motion, you can't tell what's hiding underneath. Your emotions used to be stirred like that. Constant ripples, constant waves. But now you're still, and the water's clear. And guess what? You're seeing all the things that were always there. You were just too busy reacting to notice. They said all the right things, didn't they? Told you they cared, promised change, gave you just enough attention to keep you hooked. But now that you're no longer reacting, you're seeing something completely different. You're seeing what happens when the attention stops, when they can't pull you back with sweet words or fake concern. That's when true character walks into the room. And let's be honest, some of you are shocked right now. You didn't expect this silence to expose so much. You didn't expect them to disappear so fast. You didn't expect them to move on, or act like nothing happened or play the victim. But that's the point. This was who they were all along. You just couldn't see it through the noise. Your stillness made the truth so loud they couldn't hide from it anymore. They might say you changed, that you're cold now, detached. Not the same. But no, you're not colder. You're clearer. You're not heartless. You just finally see what your heart was too loyal to acknowledge. Stillness doesn't lie. When you stop talking, they stop pretending. And that's the moment they start slipping. They say less, do less, or worse, they try to shift the blame, make it seem like you're the problem. Because if they can't reach the version of you that used to overextend, they'll attack the version of you that finally set boundaries. Don't fall for it. Don't confuse their fading interest with your fading value. Their silence isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reaction to your stillness, exposing their lack of substance. And I know it hurts. It hurts to realize that someone you wanted so badly to be genuine, someone you loved deeply, someone you defended to others, is not who you thought they were. But that's the gift silence gives you, not comfort, not always peace, but truth. And truth, even when it hurts, sets you free. You didn't change overnight. You evolved. You stopped over-explaining. You stopped over-giving. You stopped being available for people who only show up when your silence makes them uncomfortable. And in that stillness, you stop waiting for potential to finally become reality. So don't chase them now. Don't reach out just to get some clarity that life already handed you. Don't confuse their distance with some mystery you still need to solve. You already have your answer. Their silence, after your silence, told you everything you needed to know. Because real ones don't vanish when the energy shifts. They lean in. They match effort. They ask, "What's changed?" and show up with consistency. But people who only performed for your validation, they disappear the moment you stop clapping. Let them go. Let them vanish. Let their true self stand in the silence they created. Say it right now in the comments. My stillness speaks truth. Write it. Claim it. Let it echo. Let it remind you that you don't need to beg for honesty. You just need to be still long enough for the truth to rise to the surface. Number 5. They're haunted by the version of you they can't access anymore. The scariest ghost is the one you created and can never reach again. They're not haunted by your silence. They're haunted by the version of you they used to have unlimited access to. The one who replied fast, loved deep, forgave easily, and tried too hard to make it work. That version? It's gone. Not dead. Just evolved. And they didn't expect that. They never thought you'd really stop showing up, stop checking in, stop filling the silence they left behind. But you did. And now, it's not the quiet that's torturing them. It's the memory of who you were when they had you. Because here's the brutal truth, my friends. People don't realize what they had until they no longer know how to reach it. You see, you weren't just someone who loved them. You were someone who saw them, who showed up on the bad days, who stayed when they pushed you away, who defended them even when they didn't deserve it. And now, the very comfort they took for granted is the very thing they can't stop thinking about. They're haunted by the warmth you once gave without hesitation, the way your energy softened their chaos, the way your attention made them feel seen, important, wanted, even when they never truly reciprocated. That feeling, that connection, it didn't come from anyone else. It came from you. And now that they can't tap into it anymore, now that they can't trigger a reaction or spark a conversation with some half-effort move, they're spiraling. They don't miss you. They miss who they were when they were around you. They miss the safety of knowing you'd answer, the ego boost of knowing you still cared, the reassurance of your presence, even if they didn't earn it. And when that's gone, when they look at their phone and realize your name hasn't popped up in weeks, that's when the regret starts to breathe down their neck. Let's call it what it is. They assumed you'd always be available, that no matter how far they pulled back, you'd always be waiting in the same spot. But growth doesn't sit still. Healing doesn't stay on pause. And the old version of you, it didn't disappear out of spite. It transformed out of necessity. You became unavailable, not because you're bitter, but because you finally realized that being emotionally accessible to people who only offer confusion is a form of self-abandonment. So now they sit with the version of you they lost, the version that was patient, that reached out, that over-explained, that tried, even when it hurt, and they start replaying it in their head, over and over. How did I lose that? Did I push them too far? Are they really gone? And that's where the real haunting begins, not from your silence, but from the realization that they burned a bridge, thinking they could always swim back across. But that bridge, it wasn't made of stone. It was made of your effort, your loyalty, your time. And once you stopped maintaining it, it collapsed. Let me hit you with this. They're not grieving your absence. They're grieving the access they can't manipulate anymore. They want the version of you that answered at 2 a.m., that apologized just to keep the peace, that gave love like it was a free resource, even when it drained you, But that version of you evolved, quietly, silently, in the background while they were busy thinking you hadn't moved on. And now that you've become more grounded, more centered, more aware, they don't know how to reach you. Because their old tactics, their fake check-ins, their sudden likes on your stories, you see right through it now. They want the same you, but they're not willing to rise to the level of the person you've become. And that's the part that truly haunts them, because now they know they can't breadcrumb their way back into your peace. And look, maybe a part of you still hopes they'll get it, that they'll change, that they'll finally rise to your level. But don't wait for that. If someone only values you once you've pulled away, they never really valued you, only the way you made them feel. That's not love. That's dependency in disguise. Let them sit with the version of you they destroyed. Let them obsess over the you they no longer have access to. Let them scroll, stalk, overthink, and wonder. You don't need to remind them of what they lost. Your absence already screams it louder than words ever could. Say it with me right now in the comments. I am no longer accessible. Write it to lock it in. Show yourself how far you've come. Number 6. You didn't go quiet to punish. You went quiet to heal. Silence isn't revenge, it's recovery. Let them assume you went quiet to hurt them. Let them believe you disappeared just to make them wonder. That's how they process it, because that's how they'd use silence, as a weapon. But you didn't go quiet to punish. You went quiet because you were tired. Because every conversation felt like walking through fire. Because explaining yourself to someone who never listened became a war you stopped showing up for. You didn't shut the door to make them suffer. You shut the door so you could finally breathe. Because healing doesn't always look like yoga, journaling, or positive affirmations. Sometimes it looks like not replying, not chasing, not begging for clarity from someone who gave you confusion. Sometimes healing is messy, ugly, still. And sometimes the first step is realizing that the only peace you were ever waiting for was the kind you had to give yourself. Let's be brutally honest, my friends. Silence wasn't your first move. It was your last option. You tried. You showed up. You communicated. You forgave. You gave second, third, and 10th chances. You stayed when you should have walked. You lowered your standards just to keep the connection alive. But eventually, your soul couldn't afford the debt anymore. So you went quiet, not to control them, but to stop losing control of yourself. Silence became your sanctuary, a place where you could finally hear your own voice again. Because their voice, their opinions, their emotional roller coasters, they got loud, too loud, loud enough to drown out your intuition, loud enough to convince you that you were the problem, that you were too much, too sensitive, too emotional. But once you went quiet, you started to realize you weren't too much. You were just in the wrong space. And here's what they don't understand. Silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of rebuilding, full of rediscovery, full of all the parts of yourself you abandoned just to be loved by someone who didn't know how to hold it. And now that you're silent, now that you've stepped back, they think you're playing games. But what they don't see is the quiet battle you've been fighting. The one where every day you choose healing over hurt, peace over pride, stillness over chaos. You didn't disappear. You just stopped being available to what was draining you. Think of it like this. A phone that keeps running 24/7 eventually burns out. It needs to be unplugged to recharge. That's you. You were running non-stop, giving energy to people who only drained you, offering your light to people who never protected it. And silence. It's your unplug. It's the moment you stopped performing and started recovering. You weren't trying to make them regret losing you. You were trying to remember what it felt like to not lose yourself every time they called you too emotional for setting boundaries. They thought silence was your message to them. But it wasn't. It was a message to you. It said, "We're done betraying ourselves to keep temporary people comfortable." And yeah, some days are hard. Some days you want to break the silence just to hear their voice again, just to feel a connection, just to remind yourself you're not crazy. But let me tell you something, breaking your own healing just to comfort someone else's ego is the most painful form of self-betrayal there is. Don't do it. Because healing in silence means learning how to love yourself in ways you used to beg others to. It means becoming the calm you were always searching for. It means realizing that love, real love, will never make you silence your needs just to be tolerated. And when you get to that place, when your silence turns from a wound into a weapon of clarity, you stop bleeding for people who never intended to heal you. They don't understand it, and maybe they never will. But that's okay, because this part of the journey, it's not for them, it's for you. You didn't go quiet to disappear. You went quiet to return to yourself. Say it out loud, right now. I went quiet to heal. Now write it in the comments. Let the world feel your peace. Number 7. Your evolution is the loudest thing they'll ever hear. You don't have to announce your growth. The silence says it louder than words ever could. They thought you were just being dramatic, that your silence was temporary, that you'd come back like you always did, still apologizing, still soft, still open. But this time, something was different. You didn't just fall silent. You evolved in that silence. You started moving different, thinking different, choosing different. And now, without saying a single word, your energy has shifted so hard it's echoing in the spaces you used to fill. They can feel it. The version of you that used to over-explain, overextend, and overlook their patterns, gone. That version of you who always reached out first, always made excuses for their inconsistencies, always gave them the benefit of the doubt while starving yourself of emotional peace. That version no longer exists. And that absence? It's deafening. It's loud in all the ways they never expected. Because when someone's used to your old patterns, your growth becomes unsettling. When you stop being predictable, when you stop shrinking yourself to be digestible for someone who never truly appreciated your depth. They get uncomfortable. They don't know how to move around this new version of you, the version that doesn't beg, doesn't prove, doesn't need to be chosen to feel complete. And that discomfort, that confusion, that's the sound of your evolution shaking their reality. You didn't glow up just to post it online. You glowed up internally. You rewired your self-worth. You stopped seeing rejection as a reflection of your value. You stopped viewing their silence as something you needed to decode. Instead, you used your own silence as a sanctuary, as a classroom, as a gym where your boundaries were forged like iron, and your self-respect got heavy enough to carry your whole future. You're not emotionally starving anymore. You're not waiting around hoping they see your worth. You see it now. You live in it. You speak it without saying a word. Your silence is no longer about them. It's about you taking up space in your own life without needing someone else's permission to be powerful. And let's be real, this version of you, it's scary to people who only knew the version that needed them, who depended on their half-love, who stayed quiet to keep the peace, who played small to avoid abandonment. But when you start choosing yourself without hesitation, when your silence becomes peace, not punishment, that's when your evolution gets loud. Think of it like this. If your energy was once a soft melody playing in the background of their life, your evolution is now a thunderclap they can't ignore. Every time they think about reaching out, something stops them. Not because you blocked them, but because deep down, they know. They don't have access to this version of you. They can't manipulate someone who's no longer emotionally available for breadcrumbs. They can't guilt-trip someone who healed their own wounds. They can't play power games with someone who built their power in solitude. And don't get it twisted. They might act unbothered. They might pretend nothing's changed. But people always notice when your growth starts showing. In your silence, in your posture, in your standards, in the way you no longer flinch at their distance or jump at their attention. They see it, they feel it, and even if they don't say it, they know they've lost the version of you who used to make their life convenient. Your evolution is their loss and their regret. And maybe a part of you still wants to be seen, to be acknowledged, to hear them say, "I was wrong," but you don't need that anymore. Because you've realized the apology you were waiting for was really just validation you had to give yourself. You're not who you were before the silence. You're stronger, wiser, calmer. You walk with presence. You love with boundaries. You listen to your intuition more than their mixed signals. That's the shift. That's the growth. And that's the sound they can't escape. Say this right now, out loud. My growth speaks louder. Write it in the comments if you know your silence turned into evolution. Number 8. You don't need closure. You became it. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself the moment you stop waiting for an apology that's never coming. You kept thinking you needed answers, that if they just explained why they changed, why they left, why they treated you like you were disposable, then maybe you could move on. But let's tell the truth here. Most people don't give closure. They give confusion. They give silence. They give mixed signals dressed as concern. And the more you wait, the more you bleed for someone who already walked away. But then something shifted. You stopped asking. You stopped replaying the story. You stopped needing them to define your worth. And in that moment, you became the closure. Your peace is the closure. Your silence is the closure. Your evolution is the closure. They don't need to say it's over. You ended it when you chose yourself. Say this in the comments. I don't wait for closure. I am closure. So here's the bottom line, my friends. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was transformation. You didn't vanish. You evolved. You didn't go quiet to hurt them. You went quiet to find you. And now, they're left haunted by the version of you they can't reach, can't replace, and can't forget. That's the power of walking away without making noise. If this message spoke to your soul, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe for more truth like this, and share it with someone who needs this reminder. And don't forget, drop it in the comments. I choose peace over noise. Let the world know